Hello, my name's Carmen and you're listening to the Calm and Connected podcast. In part 1 of this episode, we discussed our own experiences when navigating situationships abroad. If you haven't listened to that one, I'd recommend giving it a listen after this. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Ruby. I met Ruby volunteering at a hostel in Prague and quickly learned she is my personal go-to for dreamy travel romance. What I love about Ruby is that she is never shy to open up about the realities of her experiences, because as we all know, romance isn't always dreamy. On today's episode, we will be discussing red flags and warning signs to watch out for in others but also within ourselves, because it's sometimes hard to stay grounded when you're alone in another country, and this makes you way more vulnerable to situations you wouldn't usually find yourself in. 3 short disclaimers. 1. Apologies for the audio quality. This is something I'm still in the process of figuring out, but I appreciate your patience whilst I'm still new. 2, being that this podcast is not intended to replace any professional advice, we are just 2 girls in our 20s figuring out the world just as much as you. 3, being that in this episode, gender is mentioned more than once. I realise I'm not yet educated enough on language. I found this text from Adrienne Marie Brown's book, Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good, really helpful. She says that, in this text the pronouns reflect the identity of the subjects being discussed. If this is being read in the future and the language has evolved, then please know I will be evolving right along with you. I would like to say the same about this podcast and would recommend giving that book a read. Apart from that, I hope you enjoy this episode.
I decided it'd be fun for me and Ruby to make, because I feel like we've got experience. I feel like it would be a good idea to make just a list of red flags or warning signs. The first list would be to spotting other people, and then the second list would be to spotting yourself, because obviously it's not all to do with them. They're only a part of it. It's our unhealed side that also we need to be aware of. So yeah, I said one of mine was acts different when you meet new people together. Did you ever experience this?
Acting cool around his friends when trying not to look too into me or too excited about me or whatever, when his friends are around.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really mind that, because I was also you're being silly, you're just being a boy. But yeah, because I knew I was I know that you're not, I know this is a front.
Yeah, it's definitely a warning sign to me. I feel like they're all warning signs. We probably do these things as well. So it's it's not that deep, but I feel yeah, I wish I'd had these back in my previous trips. I have says I love you within days of meeting you, especially if they blame it on the intensity of the travel connection.
Did that happen to you? Wait, was it?
I can't say. Oh, it did actually. I forgot about that. Yeah, this is a different thing, but yeah, I forgot about that too.
Oh my god.
But naive me believed these silly. It's so funny. Has that never happened to you? Am I just dumb?
No. That's not happened to me.
In line with that, makes big promises before getting to know you properly. I want to continue traveling with you. I want to do all this stuff with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it talks about their ex too much. Before getting to know you. I feel every girl experiences that.
I'm a little guilty of that sometimes, though, I will say.
I think in moderation it's healthy, but getting to know someone, your ex is a part of your life, but then I feel when every conversation circles back to it.
Yeah. Or if it's brought up in the context of I had someone, this is so long ago that I don't even care being specific about. This was not a travel person, but he literally was when I was ending things, or he was, and we were ending things.
Mm-hmm.
He was he just kept bringing up his ex as a excuse for why he's so fucked up, but not in a way that was useful or productive. He was just this is the last thing my ex said to me, and like I've just been like so like I'm just like I don't know. I'm trying to in my head right now be like, okay, roles reversed. Like if that was me, like would I understand? But I
Mhm.
just don't think I would ever do that because it's like
Mhm.
no, but actually like it was your actions that led us to this point, and you can't really blame that on
Mhm.
sucks.
Mhm. I'd say my last one, like such an important one that doesn't get spoke about enough. Travel. Usually men, like, don't wanna have the conversation about using protection, but if you're just sleeping together, it's from now on, it's just, like, a no for me, like, I need to be able to have, like yeah, it, like, might kill the moment or whatever, but, like, if you're not like, my older sibling said the best thing, like, "If you're not mature enough to be, like, sitting down having these conversations, you aren't mature enough to be sleeping with me," you know?
Yeah.
Same on our side, because I was for ages like, "Oh, no, like, it kills the moment," but it's like, no. Yeah. Say that's mine for now. There may be more, but, like, yeah. What are yours?
Okay, yeah. If you don't like their friends, that's a big one for me in general.
Mm,
Like that is the number one thing where maybe not the number one, but I just have such a hard time looking past that
mm,
because it's especially it's one thing if you like don't like one of their friends, but if there's like a group of friends and you just like don't like their vibes or you feel like they're misogynistic or you feel like they're just like whatever, that's so hard because I'm not gonna like sit there and argue with you about like why are you friends with these people, especially if like there's been situations where I've been like uh, I didn't like this thing that like your friend said or whatever, and then it's
mhm,
like then you find out that they don't actually like that friend either that much or whatever, and it's like
mhm.
okay, but you're still friends with them or like why are you friends? It just is like a thing where it can reveal a lot about the person that you're with because
Yeah.
it can reveal a lot if they are friends with them but they don't like them that much. That says a lot about them. If they like don't like the things they say that much but they like go along with it anyway,
Mm,
or if they like are completely okay with the things their friends say or whatever, it's like it's just very telling.
mhm,
um Also, yeah, like when it feels really love bomby because there's like no reasons to hold back affection because it's gonna end anyway. Like that's something that I've struggled with too, is along the lines of like not knowing if the connection is like actually as like if it would actually be that strong if you weren't traveling. Like if they're super super like forward, I guess it can feel confusing because you're like, well, if we were home, would you be acting like this?
mhm,
Then it can like fuck with your head because then you're like, then you have all these expectations because they're acting a certain way, but like they don't actually like they assume that because it's within the context of travel that like
mhm,
it doesn't mean as much. But of
mm,
course, like your brain tricks you when you're receiving that kind of affection. It's like it doesn't matter if you know logically it's gonna end. You're still in that like bubble.
which?
Skinny jeans.
I thought you said scabies. I was thinking skinny jeans, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's just a no for me. That's yeah, that's the end of that. Also, okay, this is also a big one. This is also just kind of like an ick. It's not a red flag. Same with the skinny jeans.
Mhm,
Um, Not understanding the same humor,
mhm.
whether it's because of like a language barrier or like an age gap or whatever it is. That is just awkward. Like
Yeah.
awkward, and it's like also like having to explain a joke because it didn't translate well. Like that kind of thing. It's just like, ugh, like it just doesn't. It's not good.
I think it's awkward and it also hints that you're just gonna disagree on, like, a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a sign that like this wouldn't actually work in the real.
Mhm,
Yeah, and yeah, then just like talking poorly about women. I feel like I experienced a little bit of that where I was like, feel like you're, or if they're I think you had this on your list, like, being like there's, like, a sneaky little part of it that's like, "Oh, like, I'm special," but then there's, like, 90% of it that's like, do you just, like, not like women? Like, yeah, it's icky. It's like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and which is not to say that you can't say that, like, a woman is different from other people. Like, I've had people tell me that I'm, like, special or, like, unique or whatever, which is, like, a lovely compliment. But anything along the lines of, like, "You're not like other girls," is just a no, always.
I think you get the vibe as well, or like the sense when they're saying it, where it's coming from. Like
Exactly.
I thought I've never been able to like speak to a woman like this before. It's like, okay, so yeah.
Yeah, that specific wording is such a red flag too, because it's like, that tells me that you don't know how to have intimate relationships with women unless it's sexual.
Mm,
Like when men don't have close female friends or, like, things like that, that's I mean, it I'm not gonna say it's a red flag automatically because maybe you just haven't met a someone like that, but it's definitely a green flag when they do have close female friends.
mhm.
I'll put it that way because it's like that shows me that you don't need sex to be close to women and you respect
Or to
women at
respect,
the end of
yeah,
the day.
for sure. I think like following on from that as well, it's like even if they don't just speak about women like that, like the undertones of like everything, just like homophobia or like everything. And I feel
Yeah,
like when you're abroad, I was definitely like naive to this at first. I'd give it loads of excuses like, oh, it's a different culture, or there's the language barrier, or but I think just like knowing like no, I wouldn't accept this in England, so I'm not gonna accept it just because I'm like somewhere I'm not used to. Because like
yeah.
yeah, there'd be a lot of moments where I was like, I don't think I feel comfortable with that. But then it was like, oh, it's probably just their culture. No.
So when oh, well, I had a little anecdote that's kind of funny that just about like trusting your intuition because um there was a workaway opportunity that I almost agreed to, but it got really sus. Um, Basically, there was this man in Amsterdam who wanted like help with babysitting his kids, which is such a like whatever. It's just
Yeah,
such a weird
gross,
front use.
gross, gross, gross.
Um, but he was like we were texting on WhatsApp, and he was like sending me photos, and he was like, "This is what the workaway experience will look like." And then he sent this one photo from like POV, like from like from this angle of like his chest and like his legs laying on the beach in between two women in bikinis. And I was like, that's a weird photo to send me, but like maybe it's a cultural difference. Maybe Europeans are just more comfortable with their bodies or whatever, which I think is true, but still. He just started sending these messages where he would like slowly become more and more like or like slowly become more and more like sexual. And uh he was like, I'm gonna ask you a series of questions so we can find out what you're comfortable with. Okay. And he was like he was like, it's very important for us to be naked in front of each other in a manner of speaking. And I was like, there were other messages before that too where he just was like, it was clear that he was like, let's see what your boundaries are. It's important for us to be naked in front of each other. And I was like, no, no, starting to feel super weird and wrong. So I just ghosted him. I was like, that's it. That's you know. And that's just pure intuition too, because as soon as he sent that photo, I got a weird feeling in my stomach.
Mhm.
And then it got worse and worse, and I was like, okay, I still don't have like 100% confirmation that he was soliciting me for sex, but like I have enough evidence in my,
Yeah, I feel like 2 points. The first being like, yeah, work away and well, Packers like do better because the amount of experience where it's just like men choosing what woman they want, or vice versa. I've not heard of any, but like, come on. And then my second point being like, similar experience to you, more naive than you, so it went further. But um, when I came back, I remember like speaking to my older sibling about it and being like, I kind of had a sense, but like I didn't think. And then it's like, yeah, because like women are like trained to have that mentality of like, oh, they don't like me. Oh, I couldn't be seen like that. And that's how it like escalates and escalates and escalates. It's like, yeah, how do you have like trust your gut like from the very beginning so that like, because it is quite obvious, like we both know in those two situations, like, yeah, this is sus. But like
Yeah.
the mentality behind it's like, oh no, like he couldn't be like that. But yeah, I feel like it's so easy to just like disregard your gut instincts, isn't it? Like you just think, I know
It's
it's
just
fine.
hard. It really is hard to know when it's instinct and when it's just like fear,
Mhm.
unbased fear.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's why they're able to do it because they're so like indirect about it
Mm.
too. They're not gonna come out and say like, "I want you to come and have sex with me and my wife while you watch our children."
So following on from that, I made my own list, but I was wondering if you had yours. I did like red flags or warning signs to watch out for in yourself. This is speaking in terms of like what I've experienced. And when I wrote it out this morning, I was just like, whoa, like you really get into these sticky situations when you're traveling, especially because you don't have like them, like your friends backing you, being like, what is this? I put like putting their mental health and needs like before my own, not feeling able to voice your opinion on things anymore, lacking in confidence or self worth when you're around them and like when not. I guess like just an overall thing. Starting to look to them for reassurance on your opinions and choices. And then like if people, maybe your friends at home or people in person, like call out the behavior, especially towards you, like your first thing is to be like defend them and be like, oh no, like it's not that.
That's a big one.
Mhm.
That's I didn't even think of that.
Mhm.
Was that the last one for you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I that's definitely number 1 for me because I'm super I think I'm like that with anyone too, not even just romantically, but as soon as I feel like I'm on someone's team, I'm gonna defend them to anyone and to a fault, like,
Mhm.
sometimes overlook things because I'm like I've made up my mind that I'm, like, on their team,
Mhm.
and definitely it's, like, even easier to be swayed like that when there's romantic feelings involved.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and especially with when it comes to, like, safety, like, I've had the experience of like, I have a really good guy friend,
Mhm.
who gets very worried about me and is very protective of me. Like, a lot of my girlfriends, they get it, they want me to be cautious, but they're also, like, romantic and I mean, he's romantic too, but they just have that, like, spontaneity trait, and he
Mhm.
just doesn't have that as much, and so I think it's hard for him to understand how or why I get myself in these situations. My really good guy friend, he was really worried about me going to see this guy, and, like, I just was so defensive of this guy that I met who I was, like, sure was completely safe, and because he was my friend is, like, super protective of me, he was really worried and just didn't, um yeah, just wanted me to be safe, and I just didn't at all see the risk because I was like, I've already, like, been with this man, like, I know what to expect, and I did trust my intuition in that, um, situation, so, yeah, my immediate response is, like, to defend them rather than, like, hearing out my friend's concerns, I guess.
So get like so consumed in that like bubble of you and that person that it's like, oh no, you just don't get it. But then it's like, of course, your friends will be like my friends were the exact same. Like he was so stressed out, and it's like, no, you just don't get it. You're not here. But it's like I can see both sides, you know.
And I think you have to be able to be, like to, like, quell their concerns because you at the
Mm.
end of the day, they're not there, and you do know best, and, like, I think you just have to know, like, I know what I'm doing and I know I'll be okay, and, like, I love you guys and
Mhm.
appreciate you worrying about me, but like trust me, I'm fine. And like there has to be a certain balance of like they have to trust you and you have to respect their concern. Other than that, red flags in myself, I guess I really I like the feeling of like not having to make every decision for myself and not having to like because I'm just happy to be with him, like I don't really care where I am or what I'm doing necessarily. So like there's there's an element of that that I really like crave when I'm
Mhm.
not with a guy, I guess, or not even just like not in the company of anyone else. Like I think
Mhm.
I'm just like an inherently very lonely person, and I realized that this before solo traveling, but definitely even more so. And I realized that like when I'm alone, my resting state is like a very somber one,
Mhm.
and it's very like reflective and introspective and like in my little kind of corner and like yeah, just realizing how much I crave like company, like a witness, somebody else
Mhm.
there. It's not necessarily a red flag. Like I think that's human nature and everyone has
Mhm.
that to a certain extent. But maybe the extent to which I crave that, like I just question if it's coming from the right place, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like what you were saying before, finding that balance of like dependency, codependency, because a bit of dependency is like actually healthy and it's not talked about
Yeah.
enough, then leaning towards the other end of the spectrum. I think I was the opposite though, like I'd want to take control and like, I don't know, think, yeah, like thinking about it, I'd like to be the one that's like mothering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
And I'm
like,
so the opposite. Like I so want to be taken care of. Like, yeah.
yeah, how people are so different.
Yeah. But I feel like it's funny too because the same exact thing can like result like the same stimulus can like produce such a different effect in people. Like I don't know. I mean, we obviously have had different lives and different trauma and
Mm,
different experiences and everything, but like it is just interesting how like specifically with girls, it can really go like one of two ways, and you're either like I'm baby or I'm mommy, and like there's like an in between, and there's it
yeah,
fluctuates, but like yeah, I'm definitely like I definitely that is my red flag. Is like I want to be taken care of. Like
I think it definitely flips in between, doesn't it? But yeah,
yeah, I'm also very jealous. That's my other red
yeah,
flag
I think
for
I am
sure.
too.
I'm like yeah,
And like telling yourself you're not jealous when you're definitely just jealous. Like it's not about that, but it is.
I'm a little better at that because it's just because I my brain like kind of does not let me lie to myself. Like if I feel something, it's like
Mhm,
you know, and that's another thing is I think people find out my red flags very early on because like my body will physically feel something if I am emotionally upset
mhm,
and I like cannot conceal it, like I don't know how. And
mm,
then I'm like visibly upset over something like kind of ridiculous and small and then I'm like forced to talk about it. But what I will say is that I think I've gotten a lot better at like talking about it, especially if it's like if I'm upset over something that I don't feel is valid for me to be upset about, I've gotten a lot better at still addressing it and
mhm.
being like, I know that this is silly, but this is what I'm experiencing right now, and like, can we just like talk it through? Because
Yeah,
past me would have just like gone silent and like not said anything about it, and then that's not fair to the other person because then they're like, what the fuck is her problem? Like, she's not, I just felt like because I felt invalid in what I was upset about, that like I shouldn't talk about it,
mhm,
but you can still be upset about something silly and small. And the fact that you're upset about it is something that you can't control. But what you can control is like communicating healthily about it and being like, I know that this is silly and I'm not mad at you, but like this is what's
yeah. Completely. We're
Learning.
growing. Yeah. I feel like that's it as well. Like when I spoke to, I don't know if can't remember what friend it was, but they were like, "What's the point of this episode? Like, what is it you're trying to get at?" Because I feel like without the travel experiences and like the down bits as well as the good, like you just wouldn't learn anything. So I feel like, yeah, it's for me, it's like, yeah, you're gonna get into like weird situations and you're probably gonna get hurt, but I feel like I wish I would have had something like this to watch and just like open my eyes a bit to like when you're in that travel bubble, it can just feel like this is the reality. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's still things that you could like stay aware of because like before I went through all of that like madness at the start of this year, I thought I had everything figured out, and then I went into this environment, and obviously it brings up that unhealed side of you. So like, yeah, knowing that like the bad bits do teach you a lot, so like you kind of need them, but also like try to bring yourself back down to earth a little bit. Yeah.
I agree. I think it would have been like I would have loved to watch a video like this before and during that experience. It's just nice to know that like you're not alone. People are experiencing
Hmm.
it, especially in the context of something as specific as like solo travel, which is like really daunting and scary and isolating and all of that. You do have to like really know yourself really well and like
Hmm.
at least at the very least if you don't want to be alone the whole time, you have to like be someone that is open to talking with new people, you know? So
Hmm.
it's it's scary.
It's a journey. But yeah, I'm very grateful for you chatting to me. And I hope that the audio isn't awful so we don't have to do it all
Yeah.
again. Do you have any socials or anything you want to say? You want to add it in there
Yeah.
so that
Promote myself? Sure.
yeah,
Well, you know what I'll promote first and foremost because my band, Yes Ma'am, is releasing a single. We've finally picked the date. It's October 20th. It's gonna be on Spotify. Yeah, you can listen to us on Spotify. We have a song called Mouth, and we are called Yes Ma'am. Our Instagram is Yes Ma'am Bammed with an M.
so
Bammed, BAM.
exciting. Yeah, I'll write.
Cool. And then my Instagram is um R underscore UB underscore Y underscore underscore.
Easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I love
Thank
you. I've
you.
enjoyed the catch up.
You.